on
Good
Substack
day,
once it's
podcast community. Pete Kane here, and I'm here with the amazing Jim Fuhs, who's going to help us understand Streamyard plus Substack. What can you do? What can you create? And how can you leverage time, creativity, and a lot of other resources that are coming together if you know the strategy? So, Jim, introduce yourself so people can know that maybe they haven't heard from on a podcast, but tell who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
Yeah, so my name's Jim Fuhs. I'm the president of Fusion Marketing, and I'm a retired Marine. And probably about, I guess, 7 years ago, I started live streaming, and it's just turned into this for me, fun thing to do. And as we've started to see what's happened with a lot of the other social platforms. It's like, hey, how do we get our audience? How do we build community? And so that's when I started seeing Substack, which was originally, I guess we could say, started as a we'll call it a blog post type of a thing, where writers could start to do things independently. They started adding video, and this is recent. I would probably say last 6 to 12 months. I mean, you could upload videos before, but now they have the ability to go live. And so earlier today, right, I shared a note, but yeah, so I've been remote producing since, really, what's funny is I was doing my own show with my friend Tim Sohn, the Tim and Jim Show. That started in 2018. When the pandemic happened, then all of a sudden people said, "Hey, I need help." You and I had met. I think that's maybe when you started to dabble, because you were like, I didn't even know that this was a thing, even though you have been in marketing for many years.
Yep, I did.
People started asking me to, produce stuff for them because they wanted to stay in touch with their audience. And quick shout out to my friend Linda Ray over on Substack, because we are actually right now streaming to my Substack page, and we're using Streamyard. And so, this is one of those features that you're able to use RTMP, so I can see the comments in Substack, but we just can't share them to the screen. And that's to me, that's not a, like, we'll call it a game ender, right? It's like, I'm still able to see Rocco Sports is here, another great group of folks that they're doing sports stuff, and they're looking at Substack as not only a way to put, I think they do some, interviews, but they're also looking at, they're going to stream, if they haven't already started already, local sports stuff through Substack, because they're doing, because, as long as you've got a strong enough signal, you can do this, right? It's not, even in the app. And so, before you and I jumped on, Pete, that was one of the things we we're talking about, is you can actually use the Substack app on your phone, or even in your iPad. But I think you have to remember, I think right now in the app, it's got to be vertical, or because I think if you try to go landscape, it doesn't make that autocorrect to realize that it's landscape. Now, if you're watching it, different story. But what I thought was really cool is this guy's a big, former journalist guy, Jim Acosta, and the CEO of Substack were doing a live earlier, I think, with the phone.
Yep.
Right. And so the whole idea that you can tell your story, basically as a man or woman on the street with Substack, and connect to your community instantly, is very powerful. Now, I like the fact that we're able to use, in this case, we're using StreamYard. This works with any live streaming software that allows you to set up a custom RTMP. So that allows you to do other things, to do screen shares, to share, B-roll and other things that you may want to share with your guests that the phone just isn't there yet. So I think there's use cases for both. But the reason to get on Substack right now is a couple of reasons. And yes, and NYC Falcon, I definitely agree with you that right now, I don't know if Substack is the king yet, but it's heading that direction. And why? Because first of all, why are these people showing up? Because they follow me and they got a notification, maybe by email, maybe they just saw a pop in their app that I went live. I didn't schedule this. This is something that Pete and I decided to do. He scheduled it to his community, but I literally added this as a guest destination because I'm his guest to do this. This wouldn't happen with Facebook or some of these other platforms. They just don't allow for that growth. And so this is where in the Substack community, you are actually seeing, other people are seeing you, right? We can take this sort of content and, share it as a note, right? And so then that note shows up in people's feed. It's really the equivalent, if you want to call it, of the Facebook feed, but they have it broken down in tabs. So if I go to the following tab, right, which kind of reminds me of the old list feature in some other things that will remain nameless, and Linda probably gets a good kick out of that. I can see when Pete has posted notes. I can see when NYC Falcon has posted notes, or Linda, or Roco's Radio Sports. So it's not like, well, I'm not seeing these guys, right? That's the issue we're having on these other platforms. The other big thing to me in building community, and this I think is huge for the things you're doing, Pete, is we can have, if you want to call it a paywall. So you can subscribe for free. You can make all your content available to your community for free, or you can create what we call a subscription model. And I've also seen some other people that I think is actually definitely a use case to consider, using things like Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon, because it's almost like, hey, you can leave me a tip for what I did, but maybe you don't want to subscribe. So it's kind of if you want to call it, the best of both worlds. But I've already experimented with, and it does work. If we had wanted to, I could have made this live stream only available to my paid subscribers.
Oh, so you can separate them out.
Yes.
Tell me what the difference, because I was looking at the other day. What's the difference between a post and a note?
Okay, so a post is, you're actually, like, a lot of times you're actually creating that on your Substack. It's like you're creating that blog post. You're creating it, so it goes on your Substack as part of your setup. Where if you're using a note, that's more like you're just putting something out there for the world to see. And great to see my friend Tanya Smith. You got to follow her. She is actually got notes that she does embedded as part of her Substack. I actually think her Substack is a great model, because what she's doing in the web design of it is her tabs. As an example, she has a tab for her YouTube channel. She has a tab for her actual original website. So I feel like she's incorporating Substack and her other properties in a sense in a hub. And I think that is a powerful tool that, we can't necessarily do on other platforms. And so I've been sharing her Substack to people, say, look, here's a great model of how you want to do things. And other than my original website, and that's why I don't usually talk about it, needs to be updated. And the Substack is giving me that ability to put things out there. I have a resources page, right? You don't get punished on Substack for sharing links in your content. So so after this show is over, I could make this into a post where, I may title it exactly what you called it and say, these are the things we talked about, right? And if you want to learn more about Pete, boom, here's the link to the resources that you provide. Here's a link to Streamyard, the tool we used for that. So these are all things that can go into that article that you're basically creating, that then is now a post on your Substack webpage, for, I think, for lack of a better term. Where
So
the
you're
notes,
saying,
yeah.
just so I clarify, so
Yeah.
the post becomes live. No, the post is live and the note is saved and you can add to it later and make it live?
No, so the live stream is basically a live video post at the moment. But once we finish this live, it
Mm-hmm.
goes into drafts. It doesn't force you to keep this live video. So we're strictly talking with the video thing. But then I can take this video and turn it into a post, which will be on my site, and it'll, and I'll do a write up. I mean, it could be as simple as just say I went live with Pete Kane, but is somebody going to click and watch the video? Because the video is actually then at the top of the page, and you can put a thumbnail over it if you want to, so they'll see that first. But then the second piece of that is I can take a post, like a post that Tanya's done, and I can share it as a note. So it's taking that post that was on her page, it's putting it into the notes feed,
Mm-hmm.
where it's kind of like on LinkedIn when you reshare somebody's post, not note.
Mm-hmm.
But you can make a comment on it, or you can just share it as is. So it's kind of pushing it out there into the if you want, into the Substack sphere, right? I'm probably making up terms now,
Yeah.
but that's kind of that difference. Now there's another thing you can do that you can implement into your personal Substack called chats. Chats allow you, for your followers, subscribers, you can just put a question. You could say, and I've done a couple. I could be like, what is keeping you from going live? And then they can answer that question. Now, what's powerful about that? It's giving you the ability to get some feedback, which you then can even take into direct messages with that individual. It doesn't have to stay in the chat, so you can direct message people. And so, right, so now we've still got some of those features, if you think about it, that we've had on these other platforms. I have the ability to, post to the general universe. I have the ability to have content on my page that I can organize in a way that makes sense to me. It's not like, oh, it's got to, right, with Facebook, this is the way your Facebook page looks. Yes, you can make minor changes, but the truth is it doesn't necessarily work the way we want it to. And of course, my big issue with Facebook from a live streaming perspective, and I think others as well, is that right now, after 30 days, your live is being deleted. So the extra effort being required for you to keep your live video on Facebook as a property that makes sense, it's not worth the effort, in my opinion. Because here on Substack, I love that. And, NYC Falcons, he's a restacker. That means he's sharing other people's content into the feed, and that's how you're going to grow, right? I saw him share something of mine. I obviously followed him. Now I'm following his content, and that's how you're learning about other people. So, and Tanya's saying, right, it's the entire ecosystem, and you just got to decide how you want to use those features. Like there's some Substackers that don't like the video piece, and that's okay, right? It's not a all one way or all the other. Like I said, I could decide, because like I went live with my friend Marissa Calley a couple weeks ago, and even though we went live on both their pages, she's the one that posted that draft to her Substack. So I decided, you know what, I'm not going to take the same video and post it to my Substack after the fact, because she did, because it was her show.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been one thing. Another thing that my friend Chris Stone and I have been able to do is with our Amazon lives, we're now also going live on Substack. So what that means is after we're done, we can take that Amazon live, we can say what we talked about, and oh, guess what? Now we could also put the links to all the products we talked about in that post.
Really?
So yes, so now we've created another way to get additional reach and additional, if you want to call it, affiliate clicks for something we talked about. And so Um, and yeah, so and if you guys have questions, please put them here in the comments in Substack because I can see your guys' comments, and I love that you guys are doing this. Roco Radio Sports, you're probably, if you've got up to 60 subscribers, I would think you would be very close to being able to get RTMP. I was able to do it with 70, unless they're just, being slow or tightening it up. And so, hey, folks, if you're watching this live, make sure you follow Roco Radio Sports, help them get up there because I'm excited to see what they do with the live streaming features outside of the use of that. So I want to say RTMP stands for Real Time Messaging Protocol. Tanya can correct me if I'm wrong. And that is just, you're basically given what we call a stream key and a stream URL that talks to, as an example, your live streaming software or Zoom, and it allows that video to go into that other property. So as an example, I could take my stream key and stream URL, put it into Zoom, and that would allow my Zoom meeting to be on Substack. And so that's a use case I'm looking at for, if you want to call it paid subscribers, like once a month, I might have a Zoom. And so those people that are paid subscribers, if they couldn't make it or they don't want to jump into the Zoom, they can see the Zoom, they can participate like the folks are here within the live chat. When the video's done, same thing, it's going to save to draft. So I don't even necessarily have to go and do the download of the Zoom file. But I could also summarize, here's what we talked about for all of you paid subscribers that couldn't make it. That, I think, for people that have Facebook groups, this is why you need to consider this platform. That to me is the power of community building.
Yeah.
And maybe once in a while you want to share it to everybody. That's completely up to you. But I think my friend Vincent Puglisi talks about, building your community. And if you think, he uses what he calls the stadium model. And I love this idea in that, he came to a Braves game, which I'll be at tonight. Like I said, I may try using Substack with my phone there. The fourth deck, right? Like that might be your free people. The third deck, okay, they're your monthly subscribers. And then to get to the second deck or to the Delta Club, you're going to pay me separately, and that's probably going to be a different sort of thing. So it's the ability to take some of your content and share it with the people that want your content. I mean, my channel's not for everyone. My channel is going to be about video because my thing is, I think there's not enough businesses using video as a way to educate and tell their story.
Totally agree with you.
And so even though podcasts are another way, I still think, in fact, it was funny because I just saw this article about a guy that attended Podcast Movement. I know Tanya recently, she went to Podfest, and even our guest we had on Dealcasters this past week, Chris Ruggiero, talked about that the podcast community is kind of in this crossroads of what are we doing? How are we growing? Because even though audio is powerful, I mean, people could listen to this even though it's on YouTube. They don't have to watch it. But when you're having a true podcast, everything about your guest has to be centered around the people on the other side that are listening to this can't see us. So you have to be extra descriptive and that sort of thing. Where like if I'm sharing things in the video that are visual, that's harder to make that crossover. And so even though they call them, video podcast on YouTube, they truly are kind of this, do you just want to see two people sitting there and talking, or are there other things that you want to do? So I think that becomes the debate. And so and you know as well as I do, Pete, there's a pod fade. People will quit their podcast after so many because they're not, you know, they're not seeing results. This is not
Totally.
a short game. This is a long game.
Yeah. No, I
I
totally agree
mean,
with
even what Roco Radio Sports is doing, and I think I mentioned to Joe, who's part of that. When I lived in North Carolina, I used to do high school soccer play-by-play,
you.
and
Hmm.
so I had to think about. We had people listening all over the world, and then because it was military kids, parents that were deployed could listen to us, and so it would become a podcast. But I had to make sure because they couldn't see us that I was describing what was going on.
Yeah.
Um, I think this next step, because the technology changes, the ability to now, literally create your own, I'll call it streaming station,
Yeah.
um, where people can see, like, wow, I can actually watch the game and I
Hmm.
can listen to, I'm getting this, play by play from these folks that know what they're doing. I think that is huge,
I
and
do.
it's changing how things are going to be done because really what's happened, I guess you could say since the pandemic is it's this whole barrier to entry has been lowered,
Yeah.
right? We can literally do everything with this,
Yeah.
right? We
Totally.
we don't we don't have to go out and spend thousands of dollars. You can, but the reality is you can start with your phone and you don't even need a tripod. It all depends on what you want to do.
Yeah.
But you can interview people. You can repurpose this content. But it's like think about where you want your people to be.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I aren't spring chickens, and so don't make the excuse of like, oh, I'm too old. Anybody can do this if they're willing to put in, as my friend Chris Stone says, the reps,
Yeah.
right?
I
And
totally. What would you think? Like, I do see it as a multi-dimensional engagement experience because Jim Acosta was talking about he I guess they texted somebody, he got somebody, and then all of a sudden they flipped the lens and they were able to get access to that event right there at the moment. So it's almost like no more setting up, taking days to set it up. You go on the fly if it's valuable and it's happening, you can be there because you only have to have your phone and a platform like Substack to deliver that valuable content that your viewers might really appreciate because you're delivering something unique, different, and engaging.
mhm.
Would you say, like, you see these challenges out there where they're adding value every day? Would that be something that would be a person would able to do on Substack every single day? They're giving valuable content in a 5 or 10 day challenge. Would you see that as an application for Substack?
Definitely. I mean, I think you could look at it as, and this is why I said, don't feel like you have to turn every live video into, if you want to call it, a lasting post. I could go live for, 5 minutes every morning by just pulling up the app on my phone. And it's like, hey, here's what I see going on today. Let me know what you think. Um, and then, so that could become a thing. I'm following this guy, Wes Pierce. He's really talking about the power of notes. So you could, so maybe what you do is when you're done with that draft, you make it a note as opposed to a post, right? Because you can upload videos, photos, graphics to a note. So that might be the way to kind of give it its own little life without, I mean, I don't know if I call it a concern. It's more from a strategic standpoint. If I put too much stuff on my page and other than, and that's probably, I'd ask, Tanya how to organize it, um, is, is that whole idea of like, okay, well, maybe I create a tab where like, these are all my daily, whatever you want to call them, stories, rants, messages,
Hmm.
that are short. And then if the longer stuff is, maybe it's part of the main page, right? Like, here's my weekly show. Even as a podcaster, you can bring your podcast into Substack. So that's, an option as well. You can
Through
bring your
the
RSS.
RTMP?
No, actually through your RSS feed.
RSS feed. So in StreamYard, are you designating that as a destination?
I'm designating Substack as a destination so that this video plays there, and it allows me, because it's automatically saving that video here, that is allowing you to then upload it. And, oh, by the way, Substack will also create clips for you out of your video. So it's doing a little bit of that repurposing if you wanted to share those clips elsewhere. And Rocode Radio Sports is saying that the podcast integration works great. I know we've done that with Dealcasters. We're integrating, because not only are we a live stream, we also turn it into a podcast. So we're integrating that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I really think it's still in that, what your imagination is capable of is really where this thing can go. I love the idea that NYC Falcon is looking, to create a Spanish-speaking community, content. The other thing I found out you can do, and I've got some ideas on that I may even talk to you about, Pete, is you can have more than one Substack. It's really called a publication. So, and you can also bring in admins to help manage your page if that's something that you need to do. So that's even, if you think about it, my Substack right now is Jim's Writing and Video Journey. So I may create a Substack that has nothing to do with that, but is something that I see as, a way to kind of fill some gaps that might help me. So, as a business and helping others, like maybe I create a Substack that is about veterans issues. And so part of it is I'm posting about, here's some of the legislation that is a concern. Maybe I do some videos where I interview other veterans or veteran advocates, because I think just like we have with YouTube is we run into that, well, what is this page about? And if they can't figure out what it's about, they don't necessarily serve it up. So by creating additional, we'll call them publications within Substack, you also are creating a different community, because the people that go follow that other Substack publication, they don't necessarily get the other stuff, right? That's the beauty of it, right? Like if you have 3 different Substacks that are all 3 different categories, I may just follow one of them.
Okay.
And
How does
yeah.
it break down? Like, are you segmenting the notes? Are you setting up a separate Substack where it has,
Separate Substack.
and it's a separate URL?
Yes.
Okay. And so
Yes.
you're naming it whatever you name it.
Right. Right.
So how do they at all connect to each other, or do
It's
you
all
have
it's all
manual?
under it's all under your dashboard, and you just switch
Okay.
between which one you want to currently be working on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And how does it work on the phone? Are you able to move from one to the other based
Yes.
on your dashboard?
Yes.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, because you definitely, like you said, you have people that are interested in veteran issues that may not be interested in live streaming issues that you're bringing value to. So you're separating them out based on where you want to take that information.
Right.
Yeah,
Is it
I do agree with you. If you don't have a purpose to podcasting, you're not going to stay with it, because it'll be a waste of time if you can't figure out what you're doing, how you're monetizing, how you're delivering value. So of the destinations, like I have 3 destinations in StreamYard. I'm basically selecting, I usually use, of course, YouTube, but I don't use Facebook all the time. And I don't use, because I guess I don't subscribe to X or the paid part of it. So, but I would do once I get a certain number of followers, I could put Substack in my choices to
Yes.
stream to. Okay.
The only thing you have to remember, at least right now, with Substack, because what happens sometimes is eventually, they call them API keys. If, say, StreamYard or whoever or Substack decides, hey, we're going to now allow you to have a direct integration, and that's what Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube have with these platforms. That's why you just pick the destination, it connects, and then in some cases it does allow you to share the comments. RTMP doesn't do that. There are other ways, workarounds that may try to figure out where I could share these comments to the screen.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're then able to do, so here's an idea too that we've talked about. So let's say you start going live on all these platforms at once. You can say, if you want to continue to be, this is what I would say for Facebook Livers. If you want to continue to be a part of this conversation, we're putting the link to Substack where we're live right now in the chat. Come on over because we're going to disconnect from Facebook in the next 5 minutes. Because my Facebook Live that I'm doing is going to get deleted in 30 days. So now you're potentially going to get new subscribers on this platform,
Mm-hmm.
which so here to me, as like if you want to think of it as a group person,
Mm-hmm.
right? Every one of these people that's in the live chat, I have their email. So I can do a couple of things. I can email them through Substack, but I could also, and I've seen a couple people say, hey, I'm putting your email because they're opting in by subscribing. I'm putting your email into Kit or MailChimp or whatever so that you can maybe provide them a more, if you want to call it, rich email marketing experience. But it's the fact that you have these emails and you can export the data from Substack.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get that with any of these other platforms. Even with a LinkedIn newsletter, LinkedIn sends it out to all your subscribers, but you don't get your subscribers' emails.
Yeah, that's big. To be able to create a personal relationship with people, you would need for them to give you permission to communicate with. And if Substack is providing that, then people have that option of developing a closer relationship. And you just always have to add value for people to appreciate, because we're busy. And if you're not going to, they're not going to follow you, listen to you, or they're going to unsubscribe. Once you subscribe and they start coming into your email box, what if you decide that it's too much content? Are you unsubscribing to the individual for less often, or or you just have to get all those emails? Because
I think I haven't done that yet. I think what would happen, let me see if I've gotten a few. Let me see if I find one I got from someone recently, and I can see what it tells me my choices are. Let's see here. Oh, it's probably under my, trying to find one here where somebody went live and okay, so here we go. So I'm looking at a live from one of so I can unsubscribe from their email. So I think it's unsubscribing. The email you're unsubscribing from that individual's Substack, not all of Substack.
okay, so it comes in that particular email. If you say unsubscribe, it's just one person, not okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's where, to your point, you probably got to be careful about how much. Now, the other thing, when you're setting up your post and your lives, it gives you kind of this option like, do you want to email your subscribers? You don't have to. Right. So it's kind of giving you that option. You're like, well, maybe I don't, like you said, maybe I don't want to give them too much.
Mm-hmm.
Because people are getting overwhelmed by that. Yeah. So here, NYC Falcon. Jim Acosta is one of the reasons I couldn't see his show on CNN, so I started following his show here on Substack, right? Um, and I think that, and I think this is where it's powerful for journalists. I know my friend Linda Ray. She's one of these people that's come over here, and I'd like to see Linda, if you're still watching or listening. I'd like to see you and your partner go back to doing or creating a new Substack where you also talk about the things you do to help small businesses, because I think you guys are still doing some of that. Because what she's doing with her other Substack doesn't necessarily completely align, but I think what she's doing is important. And so that's where I think you have to start making those decisions like, okay, what do I do? I mean, I would even, and this is what's funny, is some of these companies that I've worked with, i.e. Streamyard, Ecamm, it's like they're not out here yet, right? But what a what a thought to, hey, let's build our community there, because I think people are so focused on YouTube,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
they're not thinking like, oh wait, you mean I can? I mean, here's the thing. I mean, not that I have a lot, but I have a paid subscriber that actually did an annual subscription off of my first live that I did with StreamYard. I mean, I won't say it's unheard of, but it's just the whole fact that you're able to monetize however you want to look at it, right? It covers your the cost of your software, whatever, much more quickly. Because if you think about YouTube, it's the subscriber count, it's the number of views, um, and if you as you
Different.
start to learn from these other substackers in the community, the Wes Pierces and some of these other folks that I'm starting to follow, you see like, wow, that makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
And it's not that you need millions of people, right? It goes back to kind of Pat Flynn's philosophy of, I just need the right people. I need those advocates
Yeah.
that, if I have right, if you have 100 people paying you $5 a month, that's a, that, well, I don't know if it's a car payment anymore after the other day, but it's still, it's helping you,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Every
Make it
little
worth
bit
your while.
helps. And we talk. I know when businesses are starting out, cash flow is so important. And if you
Mhm.
can monetize earlier, then you're going to have a healthier business, because I think a lot of the podcasters drop off because they just don't know how to monetize. They don't
Right,
get to the point where they have the numbers. But if you don't have a path to cash, you're not going to be in business.
right.
So it appears like I like showing this. It was in Streamyard, but I mean, not in. It was in Substack. Substack is here, early adopters, and you look at the curve. We're at the early part of this, and I've mentioned it to about 20 people over the last week and a half, and I bet you 19 of them said I've never heard of it. You
Right.
know, so I think, yeah, we have so much noise out there that it's hard for people to understand and see trends and
Mhm.
see, like you just explained, to be able to have it's kind of like a studio within your grasp. Like that phone and Substack is your own personal studio.
Yep,
How you want to add value. Go to the Braves game. Man, to be able to see the Braves game and you're commenting on it because you can flip, like, because that's what Acosta said, is that girl flipped it. And
yep,
now they were able to see that convention or wherever she was, that
right,
allows us to be there, but you're there as the, what do you call it, commentator or something.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny because I hadn't heard from Acosta in a long time, but I heard he was switched to midnight on CNN or some weird time where we're not up at that late. So now you have the ability, if you want to follow the guy, you can follow
Mhm.
him on Substack. So
Yep.
that's pretty cool. So what would you like when you look at it? What would you tell our StreamYard people? What would be the one thing that they would need to really recognize between the two platforms that could really benefit the monetizing of their platform and whatever they're doing?
Well, the first thing is if they already are going live on StreamYard, they can download that video and then upload it to Substack and create that post. So it's not going to be live, but until you build that audience that allows you to integrate it into StreamYard, it's not going to be possible for you to add Substack
Mhm.
as a destination. So that's kind of step one is create content, make sure the content that you're putting out there is adding value, making sense. I think just having, pure, if you want to call it written blog post, there's nothing wrong with that. That's how I started my Substack. I will continue to do that. It's not only going to be video, but that's where, sometimes I've got to think about, well, what is it that I want to write about? Like maybe I'll write an article about, I think it's called Edge or whatever the new thing that Instagram's coming out with at the end of the month, where you can edit your videos inside of this new app, right? Like we all need another app. Um, but
Yeah.
but I think, and that's the other thing is I think sometimes keep it simple,
Yeah.
right? I think we don't necessarily need to go crazy. I mean, I think Ecamm is a great platform because you can uh, kind of step up some of the graphics things a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, but I also think that, I think I saw there's maybe 5 million people on Substack, and that doesn't mean, right, just like everything else, doesn't mean they're all creating, doesn't mean that they're, you know, some of them are here to listen to the message. I mean, you have probably a little bit of the same stuff that goes on some of these other channels where, you got your trolls.
Yeah.
So I think that's where you just got to be prepared for that. You've got to have that thick skin, right? If they're a problem, you can block them. Um, and yeah, so NYC Falcon says it's more now. Yeah, it's growing, but we're still, to your earlier point, Pete. It's in the early stages. Well, it's actually been around, I think, for a few years, but now it's getting some growth because, if you want to call it, the big behemoths have. I feel like they've kind of lost their way, and they're more thinking about how do they make money, not necessarily what's best for my customers. And so there's a lot of people upset that, not only has it been an issue with, oh, I can't go live easily into my Facebook group anymore, but B, now you're going to delete my lives. You're not letting my community know that I'm posting stuff in my group. So it's kind of like, oh, well, I'll just go to, I'll go to Circle, I'll go here, I'll go there. And then, of course, sometimes you get the whole thing of like, oh, well, I don't want to sign up for another platform. And I get that. And that's okay. But if your content is of value, I feel like, going back to the Field of Dream things, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah. Do
So I think
you,
that's
on your
important.
signature, because I put this in here, I'll put it up on the, don't, if you're listening, go by what Jim puts up there on his screen. But I thought it was, our name is substack.com and then at, your name.
Oh, right.
Is that
Um,
right?
that's to follow me as an individual. So you
Okay.
can actually do that too.
Okay. So what's the difference between your name and then .substack.com?
That will take you to my site, where you'll actually see all my content under like a
Oh,
website
okay.
design. Yep.
So one's to follow, one's to see all your content.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Dang. Well, I appreciate that. Well, Jim, I want to be respectful of your time. I appreciate you coming in and educating us because you always bring it. You bring the education. You bring the newer, the things that we always have to be aware of because you don't want to be the person, oh, I wish I would have known that a year ago. But
Hmm.
no, we all decide what we want to do, but we through education, which you provide, then you can make that determination. Does it follow what you want to do to deliver that value to your community? So thank you so much for bringing us aware of the importance of Substack and how we can use it with our building the community. Any closing thoughts before we go, Jim?
Yeah, just, follow people, get involved. If you don't want to create content, and I know NYC Falcon, gracias también, you want to get into notes, engage with people, right? It's about engagement, no different than any other platform. And that's how you're going to build your community. You'll find like-minded people, build relationships, and that will allow you to build your Substack. So don't, but it goes back to, you got to be consistent. If you're not consistent, you're not going to grow. So
awesome.
That's awesome. And thanks to everyone for being here. And if you're not, follow me, follow Pete on Substack, and I know I'll definitely return the love to those that do. So thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend and root on the Braves. We need some wins.
Yes.
All right. See you, Jim.
See you.